It's time for yet another divisive video as I examine and try to determine which multi-doctor story is the best. In order to remove my own bias, I have decided to judge this purely by the story of the episodes rather than which doctors and companions are present. So let's begin with number 5, The Two Doctors. Now I do actually enjoy this serial, but it does feel like two different stories were consolidated into one serial. One containing the Androgums and the other involving the Sontarans. In this story, the Sixth Doctor thinks his second incarnation is being killed and goes to investigate. But if the Sixth Doctor was affected by this, wouldn't the Third, Fourth and Fifth Doctors also be affected? It's a sloppy story with many plot holes, and both Colin Baker and Patrick Troughton deserved better. Number 4, Twice Upon a Time. Storyline wise, it was fine, although it did lack a decent enemy, which is something I think all multi-doctor episodes should have, as it gives them a reason to work together despite thinking they're the best incarnation and all the others are inferior. Also, bringing back the First Doctor did take away from Capaldi's departure, as he was then sharing screen time with another incarnation when really we should have been focusing on the current Doctor. Instead, we got a speech which was a mix between Capaldi talking about himself leaving and how the fans should react to a female Doctor moments before her arrival. Number 3, The Five Doctors. Unlike the Two Doctors, there is a reason to why no other incarnations made themselves present during this story, other than the fact they weren't cast yet. It's because Borusa only brought a certain number of Doctors into the Death Zone. The overall story is a simple one, and one that has been told throughout the ages. A corrupt individual tries to gain immortality. But unlike many multi-doctor stories, this episode features a handful of companions interacting with each other. And that's something that wasn't done before, and it's only been repeated once, and that was in The Two Doctors. The only minor problem with this story is the lack of interaction between the Doctors. There is a meeting between the First and Fifth Doctors, but other than that, there's nothing until the final act when the first three incarnations meet again. But like I said, that's only a slight problem. Number 2, The Day of the Doctor. When it first aired, I was disappointed we didn't see more of the Time War, but over the years, I've come to appreciate the story being told as John Hurt's Doctor struggles with what he must do to ensure the Time War doesn't destroy the universe. Other reasons to like this episode include getting to see the Doctors interact with each other fairly early on in the story, which is something most other multi-doctor episodes fail to do. We also finally find out why Queen Elizabeth I hated Tennant's Doctor. And this is from my own warped little mind, but when Eccleston's Doctor says, "And for my next trick," I like to think that meant he was responsible for gathering all previous incarnations and getting them to Gallifrey. However, the lack of involvement from classic Who Doctors is quite a big problem for me. Plenty of people online have uploaded their own versions of all the Doctors saving Gallifrey, with additional scenes of each classic Doctor working away at their console, and quite frankly, they're far superior. It's just a shame we didn't see that in the actual episode. Instead, we got just over 30 seconds of on-screen classic Doctors, and considering this was a celebration of 50 years of Doctor Who, it wasn't enough. And number 1, The Three Doctors. In my opinion, this is the best multi-doctor episode for a number of reasons. For starters, it was the first time it ever happened, and seeing the second and third Doctors bicker amongst themselves was brilliant. Secondly, despite William Hartnell being unable to perform to his full ability, they managed to include his Doctor in the story. Thirdly, we found out more about the history of the Time Lords in regards to who is responsible for their ability to time travel. And finally, at the end of the story, Pertwee's Doctor regained the use of the TARDIS, which helped reinvent the series again. And that plot point also explains why no future incarnations were present, as up until then the Time Lords had made it impossible for all future incarnations to time travel. So by giving the third Doctor back the ability to time travel, this allows any future incarnations to help if anything like this were to happen again. So that's how I rate the multi-Doctor episodes. But what do you guys think? Leave a comment below telling me about your lists and why you place them in that particular order.